Hey guys, how's it going? So I just wanted to go over and do a quick overview on the recent image that I created using some combined images and the lighten effect in Photoshop. I wanted to shoot some fireworks, so what I did was I went out, found a good spot, and went in and decided to choose an angle, and this was pretty much my basic angle, as you can see here. Nice wide open shot with a overview of a city skyline from quite a distance away, but that's what I wanted for the shot because I wanted to include some sky and some foreground here. And so that's what I used for my overall setup. And then here you can see what I shot. I have quite a few individual pictures of fireworks, and also I have my initial picture. This is what I used for the lighting on my foreground. So you can see it's nice and bright here in the foreground, but there are some things that are overexposed in the background here, such as the lights in the city. So to compensate for that, we shot one at the proper exposure for the city lights, and we shot one for the foreground. And if you want to do a mid one, you can do a mid 2 for the sky if you'd like. So those are your first shots that you need to get. And it's a good idea to get there nice and early so you can set up and be all ready for when your fireworks show starts. So that's something to keep in mind if you're going to be shooting fireworks. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Now I'm going to go ahead and open up this first image here in Adobe Camera Raw. I'm always shooting in RAW because it gives you tons of adjustability. And as you can see, this image has already been adjusted, and what I've gone and done is I've brought up the exposure a little bit. I brought up the contrast, I brought the highlights down, I brought the shadows up, the whites down, the blacks are a little bit down but not far, and then the clarity is up quite a bit to bring the detail in on the foreground. And then I also increased the vibrance just a little bit because I wanted it to be clear that the stuff here was green. So you can go ahead and open that image in Photoshop, and that'll pull that image up, and this is going to be your basic bottom layer for your image. So you're going to build everything on top of this one layer, and to do that we're going to need to open that one image, and then once we have that open, you're going to want to duplicate it because you don't want to edit your background. So we'll duplicate that one, just call it copy or whatever you want. We can call it foreground, and then we don't need the background layer on, so we can turn that off, nothing matters. So once you have that image, you're going to then pull in your second, and you can choose to do the darker one or the first one. But as you can see, the camera did move on this one, and so I won't want to use that because I want the camera to stay in the exact same spot for all of these shots so they're easier to line up and I don't have to do any correction after. So we're going to go with the middle one here, and then this darker one, kind of like the middle one just because it's got a little bit longer exposure. As you can see, I was shooting f13, 22 seconds, and ISO 320 for most of these images. For the lighter one, I was at 5.6, 13 seconds, ISO 320. I kept my ISO the same, and the images came out pretty good. I'm shooting with the Canon 7D, and this is with the 17 to 40 millimeter f4 lens, which isn't really the fastest lens available, but I made it work because I was using longer exposures as well. I was using a plug-in trigger for the camera for remote, and then I was just controlling when I wanted the fireworks shot to start and stop by letting off the trigger. I was shooting in bulb mode and also had auto white balance on. So you can go ahead and open up your second image right here, which is going to be our mid shot. So there we go. And this one's already been corrected as well. Just some minor changes to bring out some of the detail. And then we'll go ahead and open that one. And this will be on a new layer. So you're going to want to take this layer and put this on top of your first image. So we'll just bring that over here, and then you want to line them up. And now you have your two different layers here. So we have our foreground, nice and light, and then we have our middle, which is, as you can see, underexposed in the foreground. And if we were to bring that up, it would just basically completely destroy all these shadows, and you would get a lot of noise in them, and you don't want to do that. So to correct on that, we're basically going to create a new mask for this layer, and now we have our mask there. And then we're going to go and take the paintbrush, and we're going to make sure we have the proper color selected here. And you'll notice you have the proper one because if you go and you paint over it, it will get lighter. And basically all you're doing is erasing the darker layer and saving the lighter layer underneath, or letting that show. And what's nice about this mask is you can go back in and say you don't like that, or maybe, oh, I went up here and I got this too light. If I swap these two, I can then go and undo what I've just done. And I still have the original image underneath, so I'm not changing anything on the original image. I can go back and change this as many times as I want, which is a lot nicer than using the eraser tool, which would give you the same effect, but then you're going to lose all that undo. And if you lose your ability to undo portions of your changes, you will never be able to get back to where you were, and you'll have to restart from the beginning, which is really time consuming, and we wouldn't want that to happen. So we have basically our foreground now, nice and light, and we have our middle of our picture just about right. And the sky up here, I believe I left that darker, although you could go in and maybe lighten it up just a little bit if you wanted to. But I wouldn't go too much because we're trying to do fireworks and not daylight out of the sky. We don't really care about what it looks like. So once we've got those two layers in, our next step is going to be to start bringing in our fireworks. So let's go back over to Bridge, and we'll go ahead and choose our first fireworks shot that we want to put in. I'm going to go with one that looked pretty colorful here. Yeah, that one's pretty good. And I actually swapped from shooting at f7 to shooting at f16 for these shots. F16 will give you a underexposed background, but your fireworks will be nice and properly exposed, whereas if you shoot at a wider f-stop, you're going to be blown out, as you can see in this shot right here. So we'll go back down here, and we'll use one of the ones I shot at f16. Oh, that one's kind of cool. Let's pull that one in. So here we have that shot, and we want to leave everything else dark as possible. And then we want to bring in the image. So we've already made some minor corrections, and the only thing I care about is the firework itself. I don't care about any of these other lights or any of the background. It can be dark as dark can be. And so we'll open that image. And once this image is open, you're then going to go and do the same thing and drag it into your first layer. And so now we're putting this on top. And so that's in our project. And you can see everything else is still there. We've got this one on top. But it's crazy dark. So to fix that, we're going to go and press Control and then click on the foreground layer at the same time. And we're going to change this right here from normal to lighten. And what that does is it gets rid of all of the dark in the image and keeps the firework, as you can see. So now we've got just our firework and none of that dark image, and it's on top of it. So now we have a firework on the light image, as you can see. And you can move this around if you want. And, oops, I'm in the wrong layer there. If we just select layer 2, firework, this, as you can see, there's still all these other lights in here. And we want to get rid of those because we don't really want to add to the lights that we've already decided were proper for this image. So let's go ahead and just select only the firework, and we'll select inverse, and we'll go ahead and delete that. And then we'll deselect it, and now we have more of just the firework. And then you can go in and you can actually get rid of all of this portion of the image too, which is just the lighter areas that remained. So we'll go ahead and again select it, then select inverse and delete. And this one's going to be kind of tricky, so what we'll go ahead and do is just go in here with the eraser, and we'll just manually go ahead and get rid of those light areas. Okay, so now we've got a pretty clean version of just our firework, and you can place this anywhere in your image that you want. Most of the fireworks I was shooting were happening right about here, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it right about there. And then we'll go ahead and go over and pull in the next firework. So let's see, this one's kind of cool, like that one. Go with something a little more colorful there. That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and pull this one in right here. Again, minor corrections, but you want to keep your background pretty dark. Let's go ahead and open image. And then we'll pull this layer over. Go ahead and line it up. And then we'll click on we'll do Control and select the foreground and that new layer. Change it from normal to lighten. And there you go. So now that firework's also on there. And then we'll go ahead and select just the firework that we want to keep. We'll select the inverse and delete everything else. And so now we have in this layer just this one, oops, gotta stop doing that, just this one firework for our next layer, if we've done it right. As you can see, I actually deleted the wrong portion, and so didn't delete. Okay, there we go. So now we just have our firework. Another thing you can do is, if you wanted to, you can also scale these fireworks because they are their own individual layers. So if we wanted to change the image size for that firework, we can go in here and scale it up or down and bring it back in. And then you can decide where you want to position the fireworks. So I like that one right there. And basically we'll just continue this process, and we'll move through all the different fireworks that you want to add into your image. And then once you've got all those fireworks added into your image, you'll be able to save the image as one single firework image instead of being just like this with a dark background, underexposed, and one firework, which doesn't look all that great when you've got so much else going on and you'd rather show some of the foreground. So that's the basics on how to create the firework image. And I hope that I'll be able to use this technique in the upcoming days, especially for the 4th of July. Hope this helps some of you out too when you're trying to shoot fireworks. Thanks for watching.